Welcome, everybody. This is Coach Les on the Less is More Coach University on air now, video podcast, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Clubhouse. And we're here today starting a new conversation. Last few weeks have been discussing DISC and DISC behavior. And today I wanted to step away from the DISC test. For those of you that come in here and then listening to the replays, one of the things that I want to let people know is that you can go to my website, take a look and see a brief interaction about the DISC profile. And one of the cool things about the DISC profile, it's an open source information. So there's many different areas out there where you can take the DISC assessment, take a look at the interaction. And what I find very interesting is they talk about open source for computers and software and being able to find things online for computer programmers and software engineers. Well, this is the best way that I can describe it is an opportunity for people that in human resources, coaches, different people to be able to find personal training certification information since 1926 has been available, and different people have taken it and customized it to their businesses. And I invite you to take a look at this one. It's, for me, been a very interesting conversation about how to judge and assess people using a tool that takes 20 to 25 minutes to take this test. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to find it underneath DISC. And I invite you, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and ask the questions. Today, though, on this podcast, I've been doing a lot of work around integrity. And as an integrity coach, one of the things that I've been asked to do is to spend time talking about different questions and conversations. And I actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I had a ton of fun with it over the course of a year. About a year ago, I did all of these little tiny videos on different parts of integrity, like the integrity of brushing your teeth, the integrity of how we look at chivalry, and tons of things like that. And it's become, to me, kind of a fun game to say, first of all, what does integrity mean to you? And there's lots of people that have lots of definitions for it. And I've shared many, even here on the podcast in the past, about what integrity means to me. And the invitation that I have for people is to look and see, we all have our own level of integrity. But the greatest definition that I've found that I really enjoy is looking at nothing hidden, being truthful and honest, doing complete work, working from an empowering conversation for possibility, and doing very well what you do, doing it as it was meant to be done or better, and without cutting any corners. In other words, honoring one's word, doing what you know to do, doing what you said you would do and on time, doing what others could expect you to do, even if you haven't said that you would do it. and saying when you're not doing this as soon as you realize you won't be doing it or won't be doing it on time. Now, this is a definition from Landmark Worldwide, which was founded in the 70s by Werner Erhard, called EST. And this is a complex, quick, short definition. There's a Harvard definition by the School of Business director, Bruce Jensen, who has written a 26 to 28 page document that you can get for $7.95. And take a look at integrity. And as I said, for me, it's become something to level my life up with. And there are many areas where I struggle with my integrity, continue to. One of the places that I'm continually seeking coaching on and working with is around finances. Another is around my health. I'm on a journey on both of them, especially with the health one. I started Taekwondo about 10 weeks ago, and I'm looking to have a breakthrough in my health by the end of the year. It'll then be a habit. Yes, it's a habit now. I go to training 4 to 6 times a week. There's a consequence, though, that has happened to me in allowing the integrity of my health to fall out over the past decade. And that is that it took a lot to get back to a place where I could do even just 20 push-ups in a row. Now I'm back up to about 40, 45, and I'm inspired again. And the goal is to get to the point. My goal over the next, probably by the end of the year, I want to be able to do 100 push-ups, start to finish, not having to stop. 100 sit-ups. And the sit-ups that I do based on one of the ones that my health trainer has shared with me is I don't put my feet down. I lift them a couple inches off the ground, and I do crunches and lift my knees to my elbows. And boy, oh boy, the impact on my lower back, my chiropractor says, is phenomenal. And I'm, just really thrilled to say that it's been a great journey. And now my goal in this podcast on Mondays and Tuesdays is to just share a little bit more about that internal working and what it looks like. And so I've got several questions probably in front of me here from a workbook and an assignment around integrity and accountability. Probably 20 questions here that I want to strive to answer over the next couple podcasts. And I started off with the one, what does the word integrity mean? And then the second one is, have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing? In the world of right and wrong, and what I mean by the right thing is the thing that might be what you would consider morally and ethically correct to do. And what does that look like? So it might be, for instance, turning a friend in for stealing or doing something inappropriate and saying, look, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to, because this cannot go unchecked. Turning yourself in for something that you did, knowing that the consequences are going to get you in trouble, and yet you could get away scot-free without and turning yourself in and looking to see. And I know that this is very confrontational, and it's one of those things in the world of integrity when somebody comes up to you and says, have you completed this XYZ project? And it would be really easy for you to say yes and then know that when, okay, well, we need to do it again because it didn't work or they weren't able to find it. And I know for myself, there are times when I have not told the truth. And to cover my butt, I've said, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. Must have lost an email. Let me go check. Um, Now I have learned, I would say that the opportunity to say, no, I didn't. It completely escaped my calendar and my attention, and apologize for it and clean it up. What I've learned in doing that approach over the past 5 years, maybe past decade, because time goes so fast. Yes, it's 2014, so 8 years, is that it's quick for me to recover with a client. Clients tend to, first of all, know the truth. And secondly, for them to be able to see that you're willing to take the heat and potential loss of a client based on the mistake you've made, to owning it and having that conversation transform the relationship that you have with your client and take you to the next level, and take them to the next level, which is probably one of the most powerful, impactful things that's ever happened to me. And I look and see this, and I get super excited about it, because there are people that have come up to me over the past, and especially in the past year or two, and say, well, how is taking my integrity to the next level going to impact my business and have me reach my big, hairy, audacious goals? It's just some little tiny stuff about finances and inventory and, blah, 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 blah. And they'll rattle that stuff off. And I keep track of all that. And I say, here's the thing. Those are the details, those little tiny things that when you take care of those, the big ones take care of themselves. And that's the level of integrity that we're looking for on this show and in this conversation over the next few weeks. And have I lost a client ever because of owning my integrity and owning that I made a choice, and a choice for that client, or a choice that didn't necessarily go with what the client was wanting? Yep, I have lost a client. I've kept hundreds, though. So to lose one, it was worth it. It was worth the lesson, the training and development lesson. And as my coach said to me, look, coach, that client wasn't meant for you. Well, what do you mean? I want every single client. No, there are some that work and some that don't work. And clearly, if they're not willing to understand that you're a human being that makes a mistake, use that to look in the mirror for themselves and watch and learn how you restore the integrity, and then take that on in their own business, then they're missing out. They're missing out the possibility of integrity at another level in their own business. Now, remember, part of the difficulty with all of this is you can't have integrity for somebody else. You can't make them become integrous. You can't do it for them. It is like riding a bike. One moment you don't have integrity, and all of a sudden the next it goes click and there's integrity. And so many times in management, so many times in owners, they try and do it for their employees. They try and do it to support them, to help them. And the one thing I know about integrity is you can't, and there's a little saying about it that I think is powerful enough to resonate with each of you and have you remember. You cannot pee for somebody else. So with that, some of the other titles, because I happen to now YouTube suddenly rolled open on me here and I have it. There's an opportunity here for having the wisdom to ask for wisdom, eternal patience, the golden rule, God's will for every moment, run your own race, integrity of position, integrity of old and new, integrity of appreciation, all these different things. So this podcast for the next few weeks is going to be all about integrity and accountability and what that means and what that looks like in your life, in your daily walk, from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep and wake up again the next morning, 24 hours, including sleep. You know, I've made a commitment, and I've made this commitment before, and basically broken it many, many times over. But I've made a commitment to get more sleep. And for those of you that know me, it's something that I'm, kind of push off as a secondary thing. And, I found out some information that had me suddenly realize that sometimes it's not about me. Sometimes it's about other people and their interpretation or impression. And I look at it this way. For me to start going to bed earlier and getting more sleep, if my body doesn't need it, guess what? I'll wake up earlier. And then I'll just do some of the stuff that I would have done late night, first thing early morning. So that's the way to win some of the games, right? Is to look and see outside the box. How can you do these things with integrity and cause a breakthrough? Especially when you realize the mistakes you've made and the impact of those mistakes. So the impact of my not getting enough sleep is the fear that it puts in me falling asleep at the wheel. Maybe even falling asleep at the wheel on the motorcycle. And taking what they call those little micro sleeps. Coming up to a stop sign and taking a little nap at the stop sign. Having to be woken up by the car behind you getting honked. Yep, it's happened to me several times. Luckily, it's never happened on the motorcycle, and I don't ever want it to get to that point. And I know with the physical demands that working out 6 to 8 times a week and pushing that new level, the healing that my body requires. So that's a new level. So the second question, what do you need? What do you do when you need to admit your mistakes? So this is one of them, right? And I don't want to be in that place that I was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, when I fell asleep at the wheel. When I was doing all-nighters multiple times in a row. So that's a little bit about some of the things, the integrity, some of the things that I'm up to creating and causing that will make a difference. That's the fun thing to do and to be responsible for. The next question that came up was, tell me about a time when a situation tested your integrity. So for me, this came up when I know that a client overcharged somebody. And when we were sitting down and I knew they were hard up for money, I knew that they were dealing with some difficulty. And I knew it was a true test because nobody would have ever found out. It was a conversation between them and me. And I said, I noticed this. This is double your payment. Yeah, we did a great job for them, Coach Les. I said, I understand that. But what's the ripple of this going to be? Since now your integrity is being tested. And many people, 98% of people would turn an eye and keep walking. Maybe even, let's say, 99. I want to tell you, in that conversation with my client, and this was several years ago, this was back probably in 2007, 2008-ish. And I said, here's my challenge for you. I want you to take my coaching, return the payment, acknowledge it, and acknowledge them. And what ended up happening was a return of events that happened down the road where that client had an opportunity to do a review on a video of my client. And they chose to talk about integrity and about the money situation. And I'll never forget when I saw it when they were doing some marketing. And it was in relation to a financial business. And what came of it were there were clients from that financial business that said, I want to meet this person. And that person ended up getting several clients out of the deal due to the fact, the single sole fact that they did that piece of integrity even when nobody was watching, nobody would have found out, nobody would have known but me and my client. That's integrity. So I see a couple of people have popped into the room. I want to say hello. And I would love to get a little bit of excitement going with the conversation here. Bring a couple more people, invite them up on stage to join in this conversation and see, because this is an opportunity for us in the world of integrity to create something as a community, and to look at these questions. Have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing? What do you do when you need to admit your mistake? And then talk about a time when a situation tested your integrity. So I'd love to reach out, and I'll just do it in the order that a couple of people popped up here. Lorna, what would you like to say about integrity and the consequences for doing the right thing? Not the wrong thing, the right thing. What do you need to do? What do you do when you need to admit your mistakes? Or about a time when a situation tested your integrity? You've got 3 things to choose from, Lorna. I hand the mic over to you.
Okay, can you just repeat the very last one?
Yes, the last one is, tell me about a time when a situation tested your integrity.
Okay. Wow. Wow. I had a situation where, and this is kind of new too, where a person very, very close to me, we've been friends for a very long time. We just had different dynamics to our relationship, and we just happened to be in a learning situation together. And she said something that was somewhat exposing to me, and at least that's the way I received it. It may not have been her intent. And so I wanted to, I felt bad, I felt hurt, and so I wanted to speak to her about it, but I was so hurt that I wanted to do it in an exposing way, just the way I felt. The injury was, I wanted to use the resolve in the wrong way. And so I would call it integrity for me to just not act at all until my emotions have settled down about it. Because I feel like anything I could say would have been based on how I was feeling and not based on trying to resolve the issue. But she will always be my friend. We will always be close. So I didn't want the issue between us to cause a rift in our relationship. So I waited. I just didn't say anything until I could get to a place where I could think clearly, think past what I was feeling. And I decided not to talk about it where anyone else could hear us. But I did talk about it to her. And I told her how I felt. I described what happened, and I told her how I received it. And I tried very hard not to accuse her of intending to injure me. I just let her know I was injured. And so I believe that because I wasn't accusatory, it was my investment in the resolve, no matter how bad I felt. And I do believe that there was some intent behind it. But if we're all human, and that's a whole other situation. My intention was to resolve it and at least get us to a place where the situation was on the table. And I think that if I had followed my first inclination, that is to retaliate and to cause harm because of harm, would not have been integrity to me, because I would be further, injuring the situation. So I think that's an example of integrity. Please help if it is not, because I want clarity, obviously. I think integrity has a whole lot of different, aspects, but I think that might be an example of it. You help me.
No, it was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It's right on point. Thank you so much, Lorna. And with that, Sister Jeanette, are you available?
No, Coach, I'm not available. I'm listening.
All right. Okay, with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Jacqueline. Jacqueline, are you available?
Yeah, hello, Coach. I am. But I joined in the middle, so I'm trying to catch up with exactly what you want us to talk about. I heard of you talk about integrity, but I didn't understand the angle you're talking about.
Yeah, so there are.
You could refresh my memory a little bit.
Yeah, there are 3 questions that you can answer, any one of them or all of them. One is, have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing? The second one is, what do you do when you need to admit your mistakes? And the third is, what's a time when your situation tested your integrity?
Okay.
So
I'll
you
go for the first one.
okay.
Yeah. The first one, that is, what do I do when I find myself doing the right thing?
Yes. Have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing?
Oh, okay. Consequences, yeah. Absolutely. You know, it doesn't really feel good anyway, because most times people just want to play ball, you know. So, but if you're somebody that is so blunt and straightforward, people don't like you much, you know, because I mean, it's like you're gonna spoil their show. So, and somebody like me, I don't have much choice anyway, because I mean, I'm too straightforward, and over here in my own community, people don't really, you know, they don't really like to go close to somebody who will point out things the way it should be. You know, it's like you people have something to do. You've got a project to execute, and people just want to do things anyhow. They cut corners and all stuff. You know. And when you get yourself involved, or you find yourself in a situation with people like that, and they know you want to do the right thing, the way it's supposed to be done, you know, they don't feel comfortable with you, and it creates a lot of uncomfort situation for me, for somebody like me, because I gotta get it done. And there's no cutting corners for that. You see that we do it the right way, or we don't. So it's always a kind of, the consequences are not really palatable. But I don't care. You know, I mean that's just the way my life is. And it doesn't attract people much, friends, if you can put it that way, towards me. And which I don't really mind so much, because I don't even have time to socialize most of the time. I could be working. I do a lot of brain job as a media personality, so I don't even know so many people around me anyway. So, but the consequences is that people just see you as somebody who is so street and tough, and you know, they give you all kinds of name. You know, I have a colleague sometime years back, when Thatcher, the late British Prime Minister, was alive. She nicknamed me Margaret Thatcher. I don't know, you know. So, you know, they give you all kinds of nicknames, you know. So, consequences, yeah. But hey, if it's something that will benefit everybody at the long run, I'll absorb it. You know, that's part of life. So, yeah, consequences, they don't feel good, but that's it. I still take it. Thank you. I think I'll stop at here.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you the mic.
Thank you. Hi, Min. How are you?
Hello, Coach. Good evening, Coach.
How are you doing this afternoon, this evening?
It's evening. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. So, do you want to answer one of these three questions?
What we're talking about? I just came late.
Yep, integrity.
Oh, integrity.
Yes. So here's a fun question for you. What do you do when you need to admit your mistakes? How do you admit your mistake and clean it up?
That's very. It's difficult sometimes. I'm coming. Hold on.
Say that again, Min.
Yeah, Coach. Sorry, that was kind of noisy out there. Excuse myself. Okay, so you said, what do I do when I have to admit a mistake?
Yes.
Well, it's difficult sometimes, but I just admit, and I kind of admitting is kind of being bringing yourself low and feeling remorse. It's kind of complicated though. I just admit when I know I have done the wrong, or when I know I'm at fault, and I feel remorse, showing it to the person or the party, and tell the person I'm really sorry. That's it.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. This is always one of those interesting questions to ask people. So with that, I want to pass the mic over to Tiffany. How are you, Tiffany?
Hey, Coach Liz, I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to stage. Do you want to jump into this conversation stream and answer one of these three questions?
Yes, sir. What are all the questions?
Okay, so I'll give you all three, and if you want to choose one. Have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing? The second one is, tell me about a time when a situation tested your integrity. And third, what do you do when you need to admit your mistakes?
Well, I would say the first question. Can you repeat it, please?
I sure can. Have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing?
I would say yes, I have. I think that's more common than not in the world we live in today. Yes, sir.
Understood. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Rebecca. Rebecca, what do you think of these three questions?
Well, Coach, I certainly have had experiences of consequences. One was probably a few months ago. I had a call set up for a certain time, and I completely forgot. And it was a big one. It was an order someone was going to make for their group, and I blew it up. And I could have easily said any excuse of why I didn't receive a call, but I was honest with the lady, and I told her, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about the call. And unfortunately, she didn't know who I was. So I missed on that big order. But you know what? It always feels good to just say the truth. And like you said, if it's for you, it's for you. And if it's not, it was not meant to be. Another example of living in integrity was, as working with children, always admitting when I was wrong, even as a teacher, and just modeling that example. And the consequences were always teaching them, always doing the right thing. And then throughout the year, you would see when they would admit and they would apologize and they would feel sorry for their mistakes, and just seeing them living with that integrity. So that was the best. That's the best reward ever, seeing how you are being a model to others and helping others also live with integrity. Back to you, Coach.
I love that, Rebecca. That is the fun thing, when it comes to children. So many times parents think, oh, well, my kids didn't see this. They don't know this. They're not paying attention. And yet come later to find out during an interview process. I had the privilege of working for this personal training and development organization for 10 years. And one of the things is we did this interview questions. And the interview started with, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What can I be counted on? What can I never be counted on? And what do people say when I leave the room? And a couple other questions. And the very interesting thing about this was to discover how many children knew that their parents had lied to them. And the fact that in lying to them, it had given them the teaching, the education, and the permission to lie and use it as an example. Well, you lied to me. And to see and hear the parents scramble. Well, this is why we did that. We had to. No, you didn't have to. You didn't have to lie. There are ways to say just about anything and everything in a context for which a child can hear and understand when you take the time to put it in a frame of reference of their world and what they live with every day, no matter what the age. So I appreciate that, Rebecca. That's amazing. Just awesome. All right, Brother Joey, are you in the house?
Barely. I've been on the phone, so I really haven't been able to kind of keep up with the conversation.
Oh, it's easy. It's easy, Joey. I have 3 questions for you.
All right.
And since I know how much fun this conversation is for you, I'm going to have you answer all 3 of them. So I'll just ask them one at a time.
Okay.
Have you ever had consequences for doing the right thing?
Yes.
Care to share?
I know I have. Ask me the second question.
Okay.
I'll circle back.
No problem. What do you do when you need to admit your mistakes?
I try to handle that pretty quickly. I ask for understanding and forgiveness. When I make a mistake, what do I do when I make a mistake? One of the things I do is before I even do anything, I always try to figure out what my role is or was in the situation, and I do my best to determine what I could have done better. So I try to iron all those things out and find out what I need to take responsibility for, and because it helps me when I do that. It helps me understand where I was. The other room you hosted earlier today, the John Maxwell room. When we were talking about Jacob and denying ourselves or putting our maybe selfish ambitions before what God wants us, where He wants us to be, and what He wants us to do. Right. So I always try to see like where did I go wrong? Even if the scenario at first looks like somebody did me wrong, or I have no responsibility in this, or this was not my fault. I can't believe this happened to me. Why would they do that? I always try to look at first and see what my role in this role was and what I could have done better. So, and I do that first. So that's what I do first. Then I do everything I can to reconcile it and to have a civil conversation.
Hello, this is Sylvia from the paid ads.
So that's what I do first.
So the next question, the third question is, tell me about a time when a situation tested your integrity.
I don't know know if I can come up with something specific right now, but I'll tell you how I handle situations. And then maybe at some point I'll be able to come up with a scenario where that happened. Taxes, right? Your tax guy is always trying to get you the most money back. There's been times, that's one example that I could think of where I have to make sure that I don't fall into that trap of no, that's not right. I didn't make that much money, or I didn't give that much to charity. But that temptation to be like, hey, I could overlook that. No one's going to know. I think, that's an example that has happened. I love my tax guy to death, but I have to make sure that I don't need him to do anything that's not true, or report something that's not accurate, just because he's able to change a 7 into a 9 or something like that when it comes to charity. There's been times before as well where I've had opportunities with businesses and running operations, and as much as I may have wanted to be part of a transaction, what I know of the ones that I could have been working with, how they got to where they are may not be exactly how I would have done things. So not really too specific, but I know I've been in scenarios before where I was like, I'd love to. Wow, look what they have, and look how successful they are, and then I sit back and think, but at the end of the day, do I really want to do the business practices that they're about? It doesn't align with my where what I want to be doing, and how I would go about something. So those are some scenarios or some examples. Specifically, I left a job one time in the restaurant industry. A great owner, a great boss, but we just had different views on how we should handle, how I should handle my team, and how he handled the team and how I handled the team was just polar opposites. And it was enough for me to understand that, hey, I love working here, and I think he's a great guy. But he wants me to lead like he leads, and that's not how I lead. So that would be an example.
Beautiful. Perfect example.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Did you come back to that first one and be able to see something?
Yeah. I can't think right now. I really can't. But I know the question was, did I ever have consequences for doing the right thing? I feel like I have. I feel like that. I feel like that at some point I probably had to make a decision or tell somebody some sort of truth, and had a didn't lose the friendship probably, but possibly put distance in our friendship. Put an awkwardness there. I can't think of anything specific, Coach, but I know that I have done the right thing in the past, and I know that by doing so, I've had some situations. I just can't think of them that led to a consequence. And when you say consequence, an awkward, moving forward, an awkward friendship or an awkward scenario, or something along those lines. That would be my guess, because I think human nature, whenever you have to do something along the lines that I'm talking about, everyone's going to receive information differently, and they don't understand why you may have done what you did, even though it was the right thing to do, and relationships get ruined that way. They have that. I go back to that word awkwardness, that ruined relationship. So I know something that has happened to me. I just can't think specifically right now off the top of my head.
No, it's beautiful. I think that's it. You know, I look at in the having been a server in the restaurant business and knowing that I didn't charge somebody for a meal and going back to the kitchen and going, I forgot this. And knowing that there were many times I could have gotten away giving them a free meal. And instead, I used it as an opportunity for them to see, look, I did make this mistake. I just want to make sure you know that. And having times at the end of the meal, and thank you for reminding me about this in the restaurant business, where the person paying the bill was there at the end, at the very end, just signing the bill for a big party. And afterwards they said, and they handed it to me and say, I want you to know I gave you a significant tip for the fact that one, you were in integrity with the restaurant about charging us for that meal. And two, you let us know that it was your mistake and not the kitchen's. And I can tell you the difference over and over and over again. I believe that in that restaurant experience that I've had, there were so many instances of me making mistakes. And by the way, not that I was a horrible server, just over literally 30 years of waiting on tables and bartending and catering, you're going to make mistakes. And I made plenty of them. And I use them to elevate my trust at the tables and elevate my customer experience for them. Does that resonate with you, Joey?
Yeah, it sure does, and I'll give an example real quick as well. In the restaurant, in the restaurant time that time that I was in the restaurant, I had, and this wasn't the biggest consequence, I guess, but just kind of thinking about where I made a decision. I remember a time that I had hired somebody, and she had little to no experience. She was a college student, and I thought it was the right thing to do. When I hire somebody, the way I manage and the way I run a restaurant, when I hire somebody, I'm hiring somebody knowing that not everyone is equal in their ability, and this young girl, she had no prior experience. She was not able to work as not going to say hard, but at the ability as her coworkers, and it was becoming a problem with the coworkers and the staff below me, and I took a stand. It was the right thing to do. Hiring her was the right thing to do. Giving her an opportunity was the right thing to do. Knowing that I was able to train her and knowing that I was able to only have an expectation of her based on her current ability.
Uh-oh, Joey, you just went out. Did you hit the mute button by accident? Can anybody else hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you.
All right. Joey, did you went away. Did you lose reception? He might have gotten another
His
call.
mic is on.
And it is now.
His mics.
And not in a good way, I know.
No, we can't hear him. He could still be talking for all we know.
Yeah, I know. It's always, I know that experience all too well.
When you're in the matrix, you're just talking, and then you come back, and people are having a conversation that you don't recognize.
So how about you, Jeanette? Are you in a place you can talk now?
I am. Yes. Have I ever been in a situation where I was in trouble for doing what was right? I'm an accountant. I find
fraud. I find, so yes. And what happens when I work for a company and I uncover fraud, and it happens to be, you're documenting people that are in favor. They have favor from those high executives. It becomes hostile. It's difficult because now you are the one that's creating. Even though you're not the creator of the conflict, you're the creator of everything that's going to reveal what happened. And when somebody is causing fraud in a company and they're in favor of the executives, of course they're going to be defensive because it's all on them because they didn't do the proper oversight. So yes, those are times, many times, I have been kind of in trouble for doing the right thing. That's how you feel. It can be very traumatic because I work for large companies. The other thing too is have I ever created? I caused a problem today, and it could have been significant, but I said, hey, what did I do? I said I messed up. I didn't get it. I didn't do it. I overlooked it. I didn't. I'm checking things off the list, and this isn't checked off, and it needed to get done, and I didn't do it. And now I have to reveal it to everybody, and it created. Can you imagine? We're going through an audit, and you're getting everything drafted for where you need to be, and you've got to make a change in those audit statements that have to be communicated to everybody. That's going to be so. It's a big thing. It can be a big thing. But you have to do what's right. You say, hey, we need to fix this. Is it material? Was it a lot? No, but it still had to be corrected. So getting everybody on board and having that discussion and making the calls that needed to be done, that took place. And how do I feel about that? I don't like that. I don't like making a mistake. And even when I'm doing it right, I don't like when I find any improprieties from anybody. But part of integrity is when you know that term, when you see something, say something. That's part of integrity. And when you do something, say something. Because the only way to remedy it is to say it. And you have to remedy it. You can't be the ostrich just sticking your head in the sand and hoping nobody sees it. They're going to see it eventually. There's going to be some type of oversight. So yeah, I've been on both sides, and you have to communicate, and you can't wait. I hate it. I hated what I had to do today. It was uncomfortable, and I appreciate the grace and the mercy that was given upon me. But it all worked out, and it could have been a whole lot worse. Yes, I'm learning. I'm in a transition stage because it's new. So I had to act on it and quickly, so it can impact our financials that are published. So I had to act on it. It was something that I overlooked. So hopefully that's enough of my share. I mean, I could go into all the things that I found things that I did right that I got the consequence for and I didn't do anything wrong. All I did was point out that somebody was doing something inappropriate. And that's my share, Coach. Thank you for letting me share the stage.
Hey, Coach Les, how are you?
Thank you so much, Sister Jeanette. And I just want to take a moment and say thank you to everybody. Really appreciate this and really appreciate everybody participating today. And I'm just going to do a quick wrap up here and let you hear some fun music.
Coaching with Les has doubled my practice.
We've increased our sales by about 33%, blowing all of our goals out of the water.
In my first 6 months, I actually grew my business with his help over 500%. Literally 500%.
Les Hill is the type of person that invests back in you and back into your company. So if you're looking for a business coach with integrity, choose Les Hill.